Let's look at question 5. This is the tax question, everyone's favorite. Let's just jump into it and kind of remind ourselves of how to do these questions. Marius, who is 64 years old, earned an annual taxable income of 551,762 for the 2019-2020 tax year. Remember, tax runs from the beginning of March in 1 year to the end of Feb the next year. That's why it's always over 2 years. During the 2019-2020 tax year, Marius was not a member of any medical fund. That's important because it means he doesn't get any rebates. Now, you would have seen here that I also highlighted his age. Why is that important? Well, remember, it determines his rebates, right? Remember, you get rebates here based on your age. Okay, so we need to take these things into consideration. There's his tax table, right, or the tax table that is applicable in this year. I went and just highlighted where Marius sits, right? So I looked at his salary, I found where it sits, and that is where it sits there. So he's in tax bracket 4. Probably going to need that because I'm going to be calculating some tax. I looked at the rebates. I completely ignored the medical aid tax credit because he's not in a medical aid. But the tax rebate, remember, everyone gets the primary one. And then if you're above 65, you also get this one. So they're additive. So you always get this one. But then if you're older than 65, you get this one as well. And if you're older than 75, you also get this one. Okay, so there's this element of they add up. So the older you get, the more rebates you get. So let's answer this question. Use table 7 and 8 above to answer the questions that follow. Identify which tax bracket Marius falls in based on his taxable income. Okay, so always start your question on a new page, right? Because that just helps your markers to sort of navigate to that. So which tax bracket is he in? Well, he's in tax bracket 4 because the amount that he earns falls in this interval, right? So you see 551 is less than 555. So you're then going to say tax bracket 4. Okay, then it says calculate the amount of tax Marius must pay for the 2019-2020 tax year. So now it's 5 marks. We're going to have to do quite a bit. So firstly, he falls into this tax bracket. Okay, so what I always do is I draw a little timeline. Wow, that's a very skew line of his full amount that he earns in a year. Okay, so that's if he earned nothing, and that's actually how much he earns. So it says 36% of taxable income above 423,300. So I'm just going to put that in here, 423,300, right? So anything above that to obviously what he earns, he's going to pay 36% of in tax. Anything below this amount, right, he has to pay that given amount. So he pays that on what's below that, 423,300, and anything above that up to what he earns, he pays 36% of. So how much tax does he pay? Well, he pays that on that section, and on this section he pays 36% times by, now it's not the whole 551,762, right? It's not that whole amount. It's that subtract that, okay? Because it's only the difference. It's not the whole amount. It's just a little piece in between, okay? Now we pop that into our calculator. Just always make sure that you type it in correctly. You know me, I can do some strange things with this calculator sometimes. Okay, 551,762 minus 423,300. Okie dokes. So this is how much he is paying, right, in a year. So it says, calculate the amount of tax Marius must pay for the year. Well, we've done this, but now we have to include the rebate, right? Because remember, the rebate reduces how much he's going to earn. So you have to take that, and you're going to say then 146,509.32, and you have to subtract off the primary rebate, not the secondary or the tertiary, because he doesn't have those. He's not that age yet, right? He's only 64, so he's just going to subtract off 14220. So from this amount that we have here, we're going to subtract off 14220, and that is how much tax he is going to pay in a year. Now let's just check that they didn't ask for monthly, because that's a common mistake that students make, is they find this and then to ask for monthly and they forget to divide by 12 and they've done all that hard work. So let's not do that. But it did just say the year, so that's fine, right? So we can just move on to the next one. We've done this whole thing. We don't have to think about medical aid. He's not a medical aid. So this is kind of like quite a simple little calculation for us. Okay. Now, these next two questions are sort of a little bit higher order, but it's not beyond us. Okay. So it says, Marius stated that if he had been 1 year older, so if he had been 65, he would have saved more than 600 Rand monthly on taxes paid during the 2019-2020 tax year. Verify, showing all calculations, whether he is correct. So you have to say yes or no at the end of all your calculations. You can't just leave it. Now, if he was 65, he would also get this secondary rebate, okay, which means he'd get this additional amount off there. So what we're going to say is we're going to say, well, if he got that additional amount, right, that's how much he would have paid at his current age. But if he got that additional rebate because he was 65, he would have had his tax reduced by this much. Okay, so let's put that in, 7794. So that is how much he would have paid, right, had he been 65. Now, that doesn't really answer our question, because the question said 600 Rand less per month. So let's work out what he would have paid per month in each of the scenarios. So before, he would have paid this, right, divided by 12 per month. And then, I'm going to say at 65, he would have paid this per month, okay? So we still have that number in our calculator, so let's just do the whole shindig here and just write out what he would have paid. Okay, so that's what he would have paid at 65. So then this before, and remember before here just means at age 64. So take that previous amount, divide that by 12, and that is how much he would have paid previously. So now we have to compare those two things and see, is it more than 600 Rand? Okay, so before, that's how much he would have paid. And then now, at the age of 65, he would have paid that much, right? The reason it's reduced is obviously because he's paying less tax, right? Because of this additional rebate. So let's see what the difference is. And the difference is, ta-da, 649.50, right? Which is greater than 600 Rand. He said that he would be saving more than 600 Rand per month, right? Therefore, it is true or valid. Okay, so do you remember whenever they ask you to check something or to sort of verify something, it's important to give that endpoint to say yes or no. Okay, so very important. That would be that question done. Quite a few marks. Not too difficult if you understand sort of the mechanics of tax, but important to work through it methodically. Okay, let's now move on to the last question for this video. Marius is considering joining a medical fund. He plans to include his wife and 2 grandchildren. Okay, so it'll be him, his wife, and his 2 grandkids. Determine the total monthly medical credits he would qualify for if he joined a medical fund. So they only want it on a monthly basis. So this would be for him, that would be for his wife, and that would be for his 2 grandkids. So let's calculate that. It would be 310 for him, right? Because it says here, medical credits per month for tax fund members. So that's for him. That's for his wife. That is for his 2 grandkids. Okay. So I'm going to add those things together. And that is how much he would get per month for his tax, right? I mean, for his medical aid credit, because he'd be on medical aid, so the government gives him a credit. And that is how you would calculate it there, right? If it was just for him, it would just be the 310. But remember, when you have additional people, I don't know why I put so many equal signs. When you have additional people, you also get rebates or a credit. You get a credit for every person that you pay for.